Did you know about the payments?
Later on I knew, later on. But you have to understand, Ainsley, what he did, and they weren't taken out of campaign finance. That's a big thing. That's a much bigger thing. Did they come out of the campaign? They didn't come out of the campaign. They came from me, and I tweeted about it.
For the 11 years the fact checker has been in existence, we've been hesitant ever to use the word lie. We say things are false or misleading. And a big reason for that is because we cannot get into someone's head and determine whether or not they knew what they were saying was untrue. That's why we've stuck with 4 Pinocchios. But we're making an exception here.
Do you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels?
President Trump has posed a significant challenge for us here at the Fact Checker. We have documented that he has now said more than 4,000 false and misleading things. And there are many of these things are statements that he has repeatedly said, even though they have been fact-checked as false. So we had still hesitated about using the word lie with respect to Mr. Trump, except in this case that it is very clear when you go through the records that he said things that he knew at the time were false, and has now been shown that to be the case in federal court.
Why did Michael Cohen make it if there was no truth or allegation?
Well, you have to ask Michael Cohen. Michael's my attorney, and you'll have to ask Michael.
When President Trump denied the payments on Air Force One, that was really the first time he personally had spoken about it. And he said 3 statements, all untrue. He said he didn't know anything about the payments. He directed everything towards Michael Cohen and said, you have to ask Michael Cohen what's going on here. And then he said he didn't know how Michael Cohen got the funds for the payments. But it turns out President Trump did know about the payments, and he reimbursed Michael Cohen. After months of denial, his main lawyer, his chief lawyer, stood up in federal court yesterday and said that he did these acts at the direction of President Trump.
In fact, my first question when I heard about it was, did they come out
in the Fox interview today, President Trump is trying to pass it off as saying, since I paid for it, since I made these payments, it doesn't constitute a campaign violation. But he has it all backwards. Because he made these payments, it is a campaign finance violation because they were supposed to be disclosed if they were part of a campaign. They were not disclosed. In fact, they tried to cover it up. Furthermore, he didn't make all of these payments. One of these payments was made by the company that runs the National Enquirer. And in the Cohen pleading, they described how there had been a meeting shortly after Trump decided to run for president, in which the National Enquirer publisher agreed to basically pay women off to get their stories and then not publish anything about them. The whole evolution of how this story has unfolded shows that the president knew about the payments, was involved in discussions about the payments, and yet went out to the American people and said he didn't know about the payments. They were just payments made by Cohen were as part of a legal retaining fee, and now all of that has been shown to be incorrect. And he surely must have known it at the time. President Trump earns 4 Pinocchios, and we are labeling these statements a lie.